Now you want to start?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so where's Jax?
She's after him.
Way to be ready, Robin.
I'm not ready.
Well, they're ready, so do it or not. Now,
Mom.
I know.
Uh-oh.
Here, where's
Jax having a bad day?
No.
Sounds like it.
hang on one second. Let me get, I gotta get in here. Here, it's this. No, he was getting ready to get in the shower, so he's not dressed. Okay,
I'm not
ready?
dressed. Yes.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
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 All
Good
right,
job.
Amen.
And
Amen,
Jax,
Jax.
Good
Jax,
job, Jax.
There's a mirror behind you, buddy.
Yeah. I realized this. Go, Jax. Get in the shower.
Good
All
job,
right.
Jax.
All right. Real quick, let me just go over. I appreciate you guys giving me the week off last Tuesday. Those of you that don't know, I took it off for a Freedom Works event, which is the America's Comeback Tour. And Nigel Farage was supposed to be there, who started the Brexit movement over in the UK and actually saw it through till the end until he got out of politics. So everything he did with Brexit was a grassroots movement, and that's what he's here talking about. Unfortunately, while I am en route to Toledo, I get an email from them saying that Nigel wasn't going to make it, that he was stuck down south when they had all those storms coming through and his plane couldn't get out. So they had Stephen Moore, who was on Trump's, he was an advisor to Donald Trump, and he flew out just for this, talked and left. It was okay. And then the second speaker was C.L. Bryant. And none of you guys are probably familiar. Anybody familiar with C.L. Bryant? So
No.
he's a Black conservative and has a podcast. So I figure since he's going to be the main speaker now, I got to catch up something. So I'm driving out there. I'm listening to his podcast. His podcast is good. I listen to it now. I subscribe to it. It's good, but nothing doesn't set your soul on fire, right? It doesn't get you really fired up. But I get there and I have an understanding of who C.L. Bryant is now. Well, let me tell you something. C.L. Bryant got on that stage and holy smokes, man. So this guy's history is he's a 40-year Baptist minister. And he brought that, you all know how animated and how into those Baptist ministers are when they're preaching. Well, he brought that to the stage talking about saving this country. And I can tell you this, that halfway through that talk, I was ready to jump up, scream, it's time, who's coming with me, and run right out those front doors. He's unbelievable. And if you guys ever get a chance to go hear him speak, if you want to get a fire lit under your ass and you want to get involved, go listen to him speak. He's unbelievable. He's going to be back in Pittsburgh this Monday. And right now, I think the tickets are free. They were $15 for the Perrysburg event, but I think they're free for Pittsburgh. I think Freedom Works picks up the tickets there. And I'm actually going back. I'm going back because I do want to hear Nigel speak, but I'm taking Ella. I'm taking my 13-year-old who's currently obviously in school. She's in 8th grade. And I think it's important for her to hear him talk and to hear, an hour long why America's exceptional and how we were founded. And it's absolutely fantastic. So if you guys want information on that, if anybody wants information, just get a hold of me, send me a message, whatever, and I can get you the information. But if you go on Freedom Works page, it'll have the entire schedule for the talks on there. And and if you get a chance, man, Pittsburgh's the closest. They're going to be in Cincinnati, Grand Rapids, I think, although they might have already done Grand Rapids. I don't remember.
To policies that discourage.
What's that? Was that somebody talking to us or?
It was
No.
TV in the background.
Okay. So yeah, so that was it. Man, it was absolutely worth my time to drive up there though. It was fantastic. He is absolutely a dynamic speaker. Also, I was fortunate enough a few months ago, as luck would have it, to actually meet Adam Brandon, who is the president and CEO of Freedom Works. Dumb luck, Adam Brandon was meeting Josh Mandel and a couple of other people at Panera in North Ridgeville when I was working. Josh Mandel came up to me and thanked me for everything I did. And I didn't know who, I didn't recognize him. He's really got a baby face. But I thanked him. And then the manager of Panera comes up, says, "Hey, what Josh Mandel say to you?" I was like, "What?" So I went over there and I was like, "Josh, man, I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you. I know you're running for Senate. I support you. I appreciate everything you're doing." And he says, "Hey, let me introduce you to somebody." He takes me over and he introduces me to the president and CEO of FreedomWorks, who gives me his card and says, "Hey, if there's," and I told him about the group. "If there's anything we can do for you, let me know." I reached out to him after the event in Perrysburg, and he's actually offered up some speakers to include CL to come on our Zoom call once we schedule it, and give us a half
Awesome.
hour or an hour. So I'm probably going to take them up on that. Have these guys come up and talk about where they think the direction of the country's going, and constitutional issues. But it'll be great, man. And to have CL here would be amazing. Amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. He's really he's a dynamic speaker, man. So yeah, so that was it. That was my Tuesday. So here we are. Anybody got anything before I move on?
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law is in here for the first time, and I'm sure that she just fell in love with you just based on all of that stuff, because she's diehard Trump and loves all the different speakings and stuff like that.
What's her name?
Kathy Hamilton. She can't figure out her microphone. She's using
Okay.
a Kindle, and I'm not familiar with the platform, but she's there.
Right on. As long as she can hear us, man, that's fine. So welcome, Kathy. I'm glad you're
Welcome.
here.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always good to have new people here for the meetings. And there's probably going to be some changes coming here to the Everyday Constitution page. Nothing big. Once we figure these out, we'll let you guys know. But nothing on Tuesdays is going to change. We're going to finish this thing, and we're going to finish strong. And then we're all gonna talk about where we want to go after this with the Everyday Constitution. Think about what you want to do, what we want to talk about after this, and I'm game. I mean, we'll keep this going as long as you guys want to keep it going. So, all right. So getting back into the Fourth Amendment. So we're breaking this up. So real quick, let's just go over everything we talked about. 2 weeks ago, just real quick. There's not a whole lot of discussion here. So the Fourth Amendment, what it says, if you remember, it's the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Real quick, the search and seizures, the right of the people to be secure in their possessions, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Whenever the government trespasses onto a person, his house or papers or his effects with the intent to obtain information and it violates a subjective expectation of privacy, it is a search. So it's not just the police, right? We talked about that. It's the government. So if the building department trespasses on your property to go look at a shed you're building, and in order to obtain information, in order to bring charges or cite you for something, they are in violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. Tax collectors, any government entity. The warrant clause, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, we talked about why this came upon us is because back in the day, before the Fourth Amendment and before we fought for our independence, the Crown, they would send their troops in. If you wrote a pamphlet criticizing the Crown, they would just come in your house and they would search it for whatever they could find as far as evidence went. Not only that, but anybody they found out that read your pamphlet, they could go and search their houses. They were searching your friends' houses. They were going through all their stuff and taking their stuff. It was just a general search. So that's what they
So
were
kind of
trying
like they're doing now on Facebook.
well, yeah, Facebook's a whole different, man. There's going to be a whole lot of case law coming out here soon, I think, or
I think so.
challenges. Whole lot of challenges coming out soon with this. But yeah, we help them a lot though. And we talked about that. We help them a lot on social media, right? Because if I post something, even if it's to my friends, anything you post on Facebook, you have no expectation of privacy. Even as far as you posting it to only me, because in your terms of service, you give Facebook a whole lot of leeway for what they can do with your post. While the general public can't see it, the government can still easily get, Facebook will give them information just based on a subpoena sometimes, right?
Right.
Not even a search warrant. So, but anything you post to just your friends. Okay, so yeah, while the government may not have a right to come in and search your stuff, they can certainly go to your friends and, any of your friends that want to show them whatever it is you said. It's all fair game. So
Mhm.
just keep in mind that anything you post on social media, no matter how secure it is or how much, how well your privacy settings are, doesn't matter. If you're going to post on social media, just assume you're sending a copy to your local police department or to the FBI, right? Because
Right.
they're going to get it. All right. So probable cause, when we're talking about probable cause, we're talking about something that is more than a possibility, but less than absolute certainty, right? Probable cause is the reasonable person believing that this crime probably happened. That's all it takes. Supreme Court in Brendiger versus US defined it as information that would lead a man of reasonable caution to believe that an offense has been or is about to be committed. So that's it. And that's the standard that the court uses. It has nothing to do with you being the police, not being the police. It's what the common man believes. And if the common man believes that a crime had been committed, then the police are going to be golden. So we don't need to worry about the examples so much. So now we're going to get into the exceptions. Now I have a problem with this. And I kind of alluded to it in the post that I put on the page. My only problem with it is when you talk about exceptions to the Constitution, there are no exceptions to the Constitution, right? I know that Joe says that no amendment is absolute. I would argue that every amendment is absolute, right? There's a process to go through under Article 5. If you want to repeal an amendment, if you want to add an amendment, if you want to change an amendment, there's a process to go through for that. And I have a problem when courts just make exceptions. Now, some of them I agree with. Exigent circumstances, I agree with that. And we're going to get into that one here in a minute. But, there's, I don't know, we'll talk as we go through these things. But anytime a court is just deciding that there's an exception to the Constitution should give you pause. What's the recourse? I don't know. I don't know what the recourse is. When the Supreme Court comes out and they say something and they say that there's an exception or they rule one certain way, I'm not quite sure what the recourse is there. Does anybody know? Does anybody know what the recourse is when the Supreme Court clearly gets something wrong? Because gay marriage, they clearly got wrong, right? Regardless of your feelings on gay marriage, the fact that they imposed that over the entire United States, violating the 10th Amendment at least. So what's the recourse? How do you change that?
Sure seems
Through
like,
the legislature.
well, that's how it's supposed to be changed, but it sure seems like they figure it out 50 years later sometimes and then
Right.
make a change if they ever do. I mean, that's, was it Plessy versus Ferguson and then Brown versus Board, where it was separate but equal was okay in the classroom. And then later they realize, okay, no, that's not okay. That's one big example.
I know, man, I shouldn't even bring this up because I didn't research it enough. I mean, I just remember reading it while I was looking through this stuff. One of the things that one of the groups wants to do, one of the Article 5 groups wants to do is make it so that states can overturn Supreme Court decisions if it's a bad decision that, and I can't remember what the number of states is, but it is extraordinarily high. Just it's kind of like ratification, for constitutional amendments, but that if there is something that is so egregiously wrong that the states can come out and say, look, we are not going to abide by that. And if you get so many states that come on and say that we are not going to abide by that, then it basically nullifies it, which
Sounds good in theory.
well, yeah, it does. It sounds great in theory. Now, I'm sure there is a huge downside to that, but the fact that you are requiring so many states to get involved with it and so many states to say, yeah, I think it's not like we need a simple majority or we need, 15 states can overturn this thing. I mean, it's a super majority. I want to say it's probably even more than 3/4. I don't remember what I read though, and I should look it up. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the recourse is right now. And that's part of the problem is that it just seems like there is no recourse for any of this stuff. right? I mean, once laws.
That's
are-
it's an interesting point because what is the check on the judicial branch?
Correct.
So it's
Yeah.
a discussion worth having.
All right, so anybody else have anything on that? It is a discussion worth having. I mean, we could probably make a whole hour on that. I mean, that's probably a good discussion to have.
Definitely.
All right, so we'll move on. So the first exception is exigent circumstances. Everybody's probably heard of exigent circumstances. You hear about it on TV when you're watching shows. Most people probably have some idea what it is. But basically what exigent circumstances is, there's no warrant needed when doing so is practically impossible because of the risk of evidence being destroyed or in the case of imminent danger should the police not act. And I think we talked about this one. I think we ended after this one. You know, I believe in the imminent danger. I shouldn't have to get a warrant if I go to your house for a domestic violence call and I hear a female inside screaming, please stop, help me, somebody help me. And, you know, the guy's in there yelling, I'm going to kill you. It doesn't make any sense at all for me to have to get a warrant at that point, right? So that gives the police the right to enter your home at that point. Now, the search is still going to be limited in scope. It's still going to be limited, even if it is a case of evidence being destroyed. You hear toilets starting to flush. You're there for a narcotics warrant. You hear evidence starting to flush. You hear, you know, glassware, like in a meth lab, being destroyed. You can go in there and secure that scene. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the right now, once you're in there, to search the whole house. Once that scene's secure, once we get that guy for the domestic violence, we have him under arrest. If we want to search the rest of the house outside of his lunge area, you know, where he can reach, then we're still going to need to get a warrant. But this protects the police or the government from entering your house when there's either evidence being destroyed or in the case of imminent danger. Questions, discussion on exigent circumstances? Nothing? All right.
I got nothing.
Okay. So the second one is going to be arrests outside of the home. So basically, police must have probable cause to justify the arrest, but they do not need to have a warrant. All right. And what we're talking about here is like third-party residences. If, you know, we've all heard of like hot pursuit, or what else? Where else can I? So in a hot pursuit case, if I see somebody run into a house and we are actively chasing them, I don't need to get a warrant at that point, right? Closes the door, locks the door, runs inside. Well, we can come running up, we can bust the window, we can bust the door open, we can go inside, we search the house, find the guy, take the guy out, no problem. Anything that's found, you know, we get in there chasing this guy and we find anything that is illegal, contraband wise, sitting out in plain view, is all going to be admissible. Hang out with better people, I guess. Don't hang out with people that run from the cops. I don't know what to tell you. But your house is generally the biggest expectation of privacy that you have. You don't have nearly the expectation of privacy when you are in a friend's house, as long as we're looking for you. Now, it doesn't mean we can go in there and we can start searching your friend's house, but if we're looking for you, we can certainly enter that house to go and arrest you. But then we're pretty much limited there, except for the lunge area. So if you got 3 keys of coke, I wouldn't keep them anywhere like in the living room in case your buddy busts in the house and the cops are chasing him and he dives on the couch. Because if you're keeping all your coke under the couch, then we're going to find it. So I'll probably keep it up in the attic or something is all I'm telling you. Just, you know, be smart about it. Just kidding. Don't keep coke. God, what's wrong with you people? Searches incident to arrest. Now, this is the one that if you get arrested, you're going to run into the most. So once you're arrested, the arrestee's person and baggage may be searched. If they are arrested in a car, the car may be searched if it's believed evidence of the crime may be in the vehicle. So that is just like you've seen on TV, right? The first thing that happens after you get arrested and handcuffed, the police search you. We're going through your pockets, we're going through your backpack, we're going through, like it says here, we're going through the car, we're going through the lunge area in the car, and we can search the entire car if we think. So if we stop you and let's say it was a shoplifting complaint at Walgreens, right? And for those of you that aren't familiar with North Ridgeville, Main Road is Center Ridge. We get a shoplifting complaint at Walgreens. We stop you on Center Ridge Road. You're in the car. Boom. You match the description exactly. Clerk says, yeah, that's the guy. We arrest you. Now we can search the entire car. Why? Because we believe that there could be evidence of the shoplifting crime in that car. We're not just going to let the car drive away with the evidence, right? Now, on the flip side of that, let's say we have domestic violence that happens, a couple days ago, whatever. We identify you got a warrant. We see you driving or in a passenger seat in a car. Your buddy's driving. He's got a driver's license. We stop the car. We arrest you. Lunge area is probably okay, but can we search the rest of the car? I mean, what evidence of domestic violence are we looking for in that car, right? There's probably nothing. I mean, if you smacked your significant other and we stop you in the car, there's really no evidence that we can be looking for. So search of the entire car is going to be off. Lunge area, we're always good, right? Anywhere that you could hide weapons, which I've never quite understood, because once we get you out of the car and we get you secured, why does it matter if there's a gun in the car? I mean, it's not like you're going to get back to it, right? Once you're secured. Until we have you handcuffed, that's a different story. We've all seen videos of guys that have jumped back in cars and managed to grab guns, and that ends horribly, horribly wrong usually. So questions on incident to arrest. So far we're up to exigent circumstances, arrest outside of the home, and searches incident to arrest. Anything, comments?
Oh, man, this is your strength.
It is, you know what? And that's what I said last week is out of everything we've ever talked about here, the Fourth Amendment, I'm the most comfortable on.
Right. This is your world, man.
Right. I mean, 28 years of basically dealing with the Fourth Amendment every single day I work. Every single
No doubt.
contact I have, I am cognizant of the Fourth Amendment. Every time I make a traffic stop, I'm cognizant of the Fourth Amendment. Every house I enter, every time I knock on a door and somebody, somebody doesn't want to let me in their house, even though I feel like I should be in the house, I'm cognizant of the Fourth Amendment. So yeah, I do. I feel very comfortable with this one.
Right.
So moving on, we got inventory searches. So what inventory searches are, once arrested, any belongings may be inventoried to include a vehicle to protect both the defendant and the police from claims of theft or loss. No suspicion of evidentiary value is needed. Any evidence, whether related to crime at hand or not, may be used. Now, the biggest caveat to this, if you get arrested and you're in a car, and there's nobody to take possession of that car, then we're going to search that car. We're going to do an inventory search on it. But the only caveat to this for departments is that you have to have a clear written policy on how you are going to conduct and what is expected of you to conduct these inventory searches. You have to use an inventory sheet where you're noting what is in the car, damage to the car, things like that. Now, anything we find in the car on an inventory search is going to be admissible. Any kind of drug paraphernalia, guns, anything else we come across. As long as it is an inventory search, we're good to go. Now, you'll see guys get jammed up sometimes when they make an arrest and they've got the car there, and let's say they've got a licensed driver there. They're allowing somebody to drive this car away, and yet they search the car because of the arrest, right? And if you're not doing an inventory on the car, a legit inventory by policy, because you're towing the vehicle, there's no reason to do an inventory on the car if somebody's coming to drive that car away. So you can call it an inventory search, but if it's not an inventory search, you're going to lose it in court every time.
So question for you.
Yeah.
Does that include if the person being arrested is the owner of the car?
Sure.
Okay, you would allow somebody else to drive the car away at that point, if assuming the owner gives them permission?
Yeah, sure we would. If there's no, we do it all the time. I mean, if
Okay.
there's no, if there's not a mandatory tow code on like a DUS stop.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
the problem is, and I get it. I mean, there's, sometimes it's worth the, courts are so lax on the driving under suspensions that there needs to be some kind of penalty, right?
Mhm.
So I get tow in the car. But if they've got, that's just when you do that, it seems punitive to me. I mean, that's not our
Okay.
job. Our job is not to dish out the punishment, right? That's court's job.
Right.
But legit, if nobody can pick up that car, and we have it in our policy that we do not leave cars in parking lots, we don't leave them on the side of the road. Because if something happens to that car and we are the ones that took you out of that
Sure.
car and left that car there, now we're on the hook for it. So,
So if
If we-
if you happen to be arresting the person and they have a loaner car, a friend's car.
mhm.
they
If it's a
borrow
third party
friend's
car, I tow it every time.
You tow it every time. And
Every
then,
time. If it's a third party car and the owner's not there, and even if we talk somebody on the phone, because we don't know who that person is on the phone.
right,
You know what
right,
mean?
I understand.
So
Now,
all of a
does-
sudden now, we let this third party car go, and
Yeah.
45 minutes later, the owner is calling to report his car stolen, and you're like,
But in the same realm, the person driving the car that doesn't own it can be responsible for anything that's in the trunk of that car, firearms,
sure.
drugs, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah.
taking that, yeah.
Okay.
It's just like when you're driving a car that has expired plates on it, you're driving a car that has expired plates for 8 months and you get stopped by the police, right?
Yep.
Um,
And it's not your car.
it's not, and it's not, right, we're not gonna go back and find the owner and cite the owner of the car. We're gonna cite the
Okay.
person who's driving the car. It's your responsibility if you're driving a car.
Sure.
So.
That makes sense.
I mean, if you don't know this person well, if it's not family, if it's not a best friend of yours, I'd be going through that car, and I do. I'll search the shit out of rental cars when I get them, because rental cars are notoriously used for illegal activities.
Sure.
And there's been plenty of times, man, that these things go back, and you'll see news stories about it where these rental car companies find a Kia Coke in the spare wheel tire well.
Yeah.
Or back behind the glove box or something. So
Interesting.
yeah, man, I search that car just like I'm on the road, just like I'm
Yeah.
working. I search to make sure there's nothing in that car that's gonna jam you up. Because who is gonna search it really well if they have probable cause or a dog hits that car, or state troopers
Yeah.
in North Carolina when you're driving to Florida. All of
Yeah.
a sudden a dog walks around, hits that car, and they search that car and they find a Kia Coke underneath the spare tire. Guess who's on the hook? Good luck proving it.
Wow, I never even considered that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen very often, but you know what? It happens often enough, and I see it in the paper often enough that it takes me 15 minutes to search a car just to make sure there's nothing in there.
Right.
Wow, that's a good thought. Thank you for sharing that.
That makes
It
sense.
never even occurred to me.
That makes
Yeah, but
sense.
you've got a dog, Jim.
What's that?
You've got a dog. I don't know.
I
That's
do
why
have
it
a dog.
takes
I
you
walk-
15 minutes.
I've walked my dog around rental cars.
I know,
before.
but that's why it takes you 15 minutes. It would take us 2 hours to try to figure out.
No.
where to-
Usually my dog is already at the kennel by the time I pick up a rental car. Yeah, so. All right, so moving on. Questions, anything, discussion, anything about that?
No, it's good info, Jim. It's good info.
All right.
Yep.
I was talking to Chief the other day, and he asked me if I'm still doing this thing about the Constitution. I said, yeah. And I told him, I said, we're on the Fourth Amendment. I said, it was kind of weird. I said, I think people kind of expected me to support the police on this Fourth Amendment. And the very first thing I said was never talk to the police. And he kind of laughed and he says, no. He says, he says, man, that's the rules, there's no reason to shy away from the rules. So, so far with all this stuff, I appear to have the chief's blessing for everything I'm doing. But I think, I think I represent well. I don't think, everything I'm telling you, I'm not telling you how to get away with crimes, but certainly here, what this class is about asserting your rights. That's why we're doing this. Like John Jay said, right? We're learning what the Constitution says. Every citizen ought diligently study their Constitution, right? So that when your rights are being violated.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what this is about, man. The Fourth Amendment. I think you're fortunate here in that you're getting it from both sides.
Right.
I've been on both sides of this. I see it day by day. I don't violate people's Fourth Amendment, but trust me, man, I'm using the tools that the Supreme Court gives me sometimes to get into these cars. So,
I think as well you should.
well, and I do, and I have to. I mean, that's my job, right? My job is to catch
Right.
criminals. But I don't have searches that I can look back on even now, and that I even feel bad about. I don't have one that comes to mind that I'm like, you know what, I really screwed that guy over. Not one. Everything I do is legal.
That's good. That's great.
I disagree with, some of the things that the Supreme Court says. Sometimes I'll pull up on stops, especially with officers from other cities who call me out for the dog. And they'll run through like what is leading them to believe that there's something in this car. Now, they don't need a reason. Nobody needs a reason to walk a dog around the car. Any of you right now could get stopped tomorrow for running a stop sign. And if there's a dog walking, they can call the dog to walk around your car and sniff your car. They can demand that you get out of the car during this sniff, right? That's all legal. But sometimes, you know, I hear from some of these guys and they're like, this is why I stopped him. And this is what I think. This is why I think that there's dope in this car, and there's been a few times where I pull guys aside and said, look, I mean, I get where you're going with this, but this is not ultimately the battle you're going to want to fight if this goes anywhere. You know?
Might go south, right?
Probably need to be a little careful here. Yeah, I mean, I
Discretion
don't,
is the better part of valor.
well, that's right. And I talked about it last week. You weren't here last week, right, David? You had something going on.
Right. Yeah.
And I talked about a car from Georgia, man, that I was sitting there watching the cars getting off the turnpike on the I-480, and they went by me, and I know they're dirty, man. Knew it 100%. And just the way they were acting, what they were doing. And I followed them outside of the city, but they didn't give me anything, right? They did not do one thing. They went straight into autopilot. Nothing for me to pull them over, and I let them go. And I just remember, man, I got off at Stearns and they were going by me because I had actually gone all the way around them, right? They're driving and I pull up and where am I at here? I pull up and I look at the passenger. I slow down. I get behind them. I get up on this side. I'm looking at the driver. I slow back down. I get around them and they're just driving straight ahead. And I remember getting off and looking at them. I'm like, you sons of bitches. Well played. Well played. And away they went, you know, and I think about that stop all the time because I know they were dirty, but what am I going to
Yeah.
do? Right. I work
What can
within
you
work within the constraints I'm given. So,
Right.
all right, moving on to the next one, we got the automobile exception. So the reason we can search cars so easily, it seems, is that cars, including trunks and lock containers, may be searched as long as officers have probable cause to believe evidence of a crime is inside. And the reason for that is it almost falls under exigent circumstances, right? Because houses aren't going anywhere, right? We can secure the outside of a house and get a warrant, but a car we have to let go. And the Supreme Court's pretty clear that we do not have all day to hold on to these people, right? So I can't just hold on to somebody for 3 hours while I'm waiting for a warrant to come on a traffic stop. I'm very limited in the time I have once a car is stopped. And basically any probable cause that I'm going to develop has to be developed within the normal time conducting normal business of the traffic stop. All right. So typically what we'll do is if a guy has concerns that he thinks there might be dope in the car, they'll call me right away. I'll show up while he's writing the ticket. If it's me, now they're a little more lenient on a canine handler waiting for a backup car to come. So once my backup gets there, I will have my stuff all filled out. I will give it to my backup officer. He will explain the ticket or whatever to the guy while I take my dog and walk him around. That way there's no break-in work that we're doing because our time is so short. And that is one of the reasons why the cars are exempt. But they're only exempt if we have probable cause. We either, and remember, we're talking about reasonable suspicion and probable cause. Reasonable suspicion is a whole lot less than probable cause. You have to have probable cause. A normal person has to have probable cause to believe that a crime is happening in this car. Now, we can get there through talking to people. We can get there with a dog alert. Right? If a dog walks around your car, he alerts to your car. That's probable cause for us to get in it. The totality of the circumstances when it comes to drug runners, we have certain things that we look for. And if we get so many of these things that are all just making sense, it's one of those things that, would the reasonable person believe that there's probably some crime afoot here. If we see the butt of a gun sticking out from underneath the passenger seat, or, we run everybody in the car and nobody has a CCW permit. All right, now we have probable cause to believe there's something going on in that car and we have the right to search that car. Once we find that gun, we have the right to continue searching to see if there's any other evidence of crime in that car. So once you get stopped, if there's probable cause to believe that something's going on, you're going to get your car searched, right? Now, the time to argue probable cause with the police is not on the side of the road. Hear me again. Do not argue with the police on the side of the road, whether they have probable cause or not. None of you are attorneys here. Even if you are attorneys, you're not a judge, right? The time to argue this is when you get to court. So if the police are going to search your car, they search your car, and then you get yourself a good attorney and you bring up these Fourth Amendment issues in court. You don't do it on the side of the road. And we see in the news quite often, how this goes, right? When we do decide to resist, on the side of the road. We just let
Has
things
anybody
go.
ever convinced you on the side of the road that you were violating their rights? Have you
No.
ever seen it?
No,
Okay, just
No.
checking.
no. I do. I remember I had an attorney stopped out of Michigan. And this was before the whole debacle with hemp started. And in the car, I could smell fresh weed for sure. So I got him out of the car, and he came out of the car. And the more we talked, he let me know that he was an attorney trying to intimidate me. And I told him that I could smell marijuana in the car. I could smell fresh marijuana in the car. And buddy, he went round and round about how I was violating his Fourth Amendment rights, how, this is not going to stand, how, whatever. And ended up searching his car and found probably an ounce. I mean, it was no big amount of marijuana, but it was enough to charge him with. And we charged him. I never heard back from him. So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I got this guy. Now, if I was a younger guy, maybe that would have worked. Oh, when I was brand new, I was scared of attorneys, right? Attorneys would show up with their clients, or you'd stop them or whatever. They'd show, they'd be at the scene, and attorneys were scary things. People were like, I'm going to call my attorney. And you're like, oh shit, I don't want any trouble. Now, I mean, after about 5 years, you realize attorneys are a dime a dozen. They have a job to do, and I get it. I appreciate the job they do, but they're not going to sway me from doing what I got to do on the road. So
Can your dog tell the difference between hemp and marijuana?
no.
Okay.
No. Well, you know what they say, no. We keep saying we need to find hemp. We need to find good hemp that we can hide. But either way, the courts have accepted the fact that hemp and marijuana smell the same. So we do have problems with that. We have problems with that now. If the dog's alerting to, see, it goes, here's my problem with it. So they say that if your dog alerts to a car, that you need to establish that there's marijuana in the car, but most of the time it's not marijuana anymore. It's heroin, right? Or meth. I mean, and the dog is still alert to heroin and meth. So the fact, I have a problem with just saying, well, you know what, the guy's not saying he has marijuana in the car, so we're going to let him go. Meanwhile, you're letting him go drive down the road with a pound of heroin in his car.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it hasn't been challenged yet. It will be eventually. Our dogs now, our last 2 dogs that we got are not trained in marijuana. They will not alert to it. So if they alert, it's easy to say then at that point that it's not marijuana.
Is there a reason that they're not trained for marijuana anymore?
Yeah, because they've decriminalized it, and we see the route. We see the way this is going, right? It's going to be legalized. And personally, I mean, between me, you and the internet, I think it should be. We're wasting way too much money on marijuana enforcement. I mean, take all the money that we're wasting on marijuana enforcement and put it into opiates, man.
I can see that, but what if the guy's got like pounds and pounds of marijuana in there? He's trafficking it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's always that's always going to be the exception, right? Most of the time, it's somebody with a couple grams who, maybe an ounce, he's going home and he's going to smoke it himself. That's typically what it is. You're right. Every now and then there could be somebody with 100 pounds of marijuana.
What's that going to do with the dogs who are already trained in marijuana? Is that going to put them out of business?
No, I don't think so. And there's a lot of, I don't want to get too far off on a tangent here. There's a lot of people out there that are saying that these dogs that you cannot extinct an odor out of a dog. And I disagree with that. 28 years of experience with canine tells me that you absolutely can extinct an odor out of a dog. I could extinct marijuana out of my dog in a couple months. He will never alert to it again. Guaranteed. But
Because you carry it around in your pockets all the time then?
Yeah, right. That's how I do it. Right? So in order to do it, we have to stop. I'm not even going to joke. This is how it goes horribly wrong.
Sorry.
As long as they don't alert to whiskey, I should be okay.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Well, I've actually trained my dog to alert to bourbon. So good luck coming through the city.
Oh boy. Well, you should pull my car over any day then.
Alerting to bourbon's fine. It's other stuff I got to worry about.
Yeah.
If Jim finds that though, it's not making it to the evidence room.
That's not true. Listen, if I happen to test the entire sample, that's not my problem. It takes numerous tests to establish whether it's.
You
bourbon.
gotta be sure.
You gotta be sure.
Gotta be certain.
All right.
Are you gonna touch on
I got
Are
a
you gonna
question.
touch-
What's that?
I got a question.
Yeah.
How come you're okay with it being decriminalized when we don't have any field sobriety testing in place for marijuana? Like, it's not like you can touch THC on the side of the road by blood or hair or anything, and people intoxicated are people intoxicated, but at least we have field sobriety testing with alcohol, but
Well, that's not
we
true.
have to wait
That's
for
not true.
officers-
We give the same field sobriety test for marijuana. So you're on the side of the road. If you can pass a field sobriety test, the point of the field sobriety test is to prove your impairment. And if you're showing no impairment, whether it's alcohol or marijuana, then you're going to be on your way. I mean,
But
if you
I
can.
mean, like breathalyzer, I know that Oakland, California was trying to make some kind of breathalyzer for THC like years ago. And they
Oh, we
keep
don't
saying,
need it.
"Oh,"
We don't
but
need it.
we
There's
don't
no-
have any kind of machinery, like a breathalyzer to pair with the field
But we
sobriety.
don't, well, see,
Yeah,
I
but the
don't
ha-
know how these other states are, but we don't need it.
But the half-life of THC is so long, it stays in your system after impairment. So you'd still test positive for it, even if you're not impaired. So that's
Well,
not
what
going
I'm
to
saying,
test.
the reason we don't need it is we're going to make we're going to establish whether or not we believe you are impaired on the side of the road, right? If we believe you are impaired, and let's just say we give you the roadside, the Alka-Sensor test, which is not admissible in court. But it just gives us an idea, and we believe you're impaired. We give you the Alka-Sensor and it comes up zeros. So now you're impaired. It's just like with prescription medication, right? I mean, there's no breath test you can do on the side of the road for prescription meds, but you're not allowed to drive on them when you're all loopy and,
Impaired.
and impaired, right? So what happens then is we bring you back to the station, and in Ohio, we dictate what the test is. And if you refuse to take that test, then you're going to lose your driver's license. So if we believe it's drugs, we always start with either a urine or a blood test. That's it. I mean, we're going to give you a urine or we're going to give you a blood test. You're off the road. We get the results back, comes back that you are above the per se levels, and you're going to get charged. I'm not worried at all about, establishing the amount of marijuana in your system. I mean, we're going to establish whether you're impaired on the side of the road. So,
Well, how, that
Seems
kind
like
of takes
people
us,
think it's okay to take a token drive, even if they don't take a drink and drive.
what's that?
It seems like people that smoke pot think it's okay to take a token drive, but not okay to take a drink and drive. Like, people are so casual about getting high and driving that are potheads. I just wish that we had some kind of like, breathalyzer or something to enhance the testing before it was voted in.
Well, I mean, honestly, I bet 90% of the OVI stops I have, I don't even do the roadside breath test. I don't. I mean, I establish based on my field sobriety test, the driving, how the person's acting. I don't typically I don't even use an Alka-Sensor. I make my decision. I take them back then based on everything that I've seen. So
Okay.
I think you're putting too much stock in the roadside breathalyzer or, that kind of testing.
Yeah, the PBT isn't even admissible though.
It's
So
not
that's
admissible.
that
It's not admissible. And the majority of the cops I know that have longer than 3 years on, I mean, well, I shouldn't say the majority. I mean, guys on nights will sometimes start with the Alka-Sensors just to hurry things along. You know what I mean? So you'll take it, they'll offer that first. And if it comes up as 0.01, then they just cut you loose and you're on your way.
can this segue into the DUI checkpoints and what people's rights are as opposed to what the officer's rights are to stop you?
Yeah, as soon as we get into street stops and frisks, I think we got time. We can talk about that. And we got, I think there's one, isn't there one coming up? I thought I saw in the paper. But 'tis the season. I mean, they're all going to be coming up. So, anything else on automobiles right now? Okay.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
Street stops and frisks. These are Terry stops. Suspect may be detained and frisked for weapons with reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. So if we believe that you are committing any crime, we can frisk you. Now, that is not a search, but it is a frisk. for weapons, all right? Which means that we're not going in pockets, but we can manipulate pockets, right? We can go up and down the legs. We can check the belt line. We can check the crotch. We can check, check your body. We're not going into pockets. We're not pulling out your stuff, but we're looking for anything that could be a weapon. And really, it doesn't have to be a crime that was using a weapon. It's just any crime. You're walking down the street and, we believe that, something as minor as pedestrian under the influence, right? You're stumbling down the street, getting ready to get hit by cars because you're so intoxicated, you're going to get frisked when we're talking to you. Now, reasonable suspicion of criminal activity is a whole lot less than probable cause, remember. So something like you come on full out sprint out of Speedway, run across Lorraine Road and run into the field down there by Victory, right? Would a reasonable person believe that a crime may have just been committed? I mean, does a reasonable person, are they going, man, this ain't right? How many gas stations do you pull into every week and you never see anybody bust out of there in a sprint, run right across the street and run into a field, right?
Something's probably wrong.
Right. That's it. That is reasonable suspicion. The common person goes,
that ain't normal.
Something's probably wrong. That's all it is. So now we stop you for that. And we're like, hey man, you know what? Is it illegal on its face? No, you're allowed to run, right? Do most people come busting out of a door like that and run into a field? Nope. So we're going to talk to you. And once we talk to you, we do have reasonable suspicion to believe that something probably happened there. One of the problems I have is that I am so into the Constitution that I find myself not dealing with people that probably need to be dealt with, right? Because I am so pro-liberty that as the police, I don't want to get involved in people's lives unless I absolutely have to get involved in people's lives. Case in point, probably a month ago, no more than 2 months ago, I am working. It's a morning, it's a weekend, and I am driving down Lorraine Road and I see a guy run across Lorraine Road from Motel 6, one of the motels there. Not odd, right? A lot of people run across Lorraine Road because you're basically playing Frogger at that point, right? You're trying to get from one side of the road to the other side of the road. Cars are coming by. We got 4 lanes, maybe 5 lanes, depending on where you are. Cars are coming by at 40 miles an hour. We're stopping cars up there for 65 miles an hour. So it is Frogger, right? We got some people doing 20, some people doing 60. So it's not uncommon to see somebody run across the road. Well, I see this guy run across the road, but he doesn't stop running. He's in jeans. And he's running right down eastbound into the parking lot of McDonald's now. Well, I drive by and God, man, the cop in me is like, you should probably talk to that guy. But the pro-liberty side of me says, what's he doing? This guy's out. So what? So he's running. So he's wearing jeans. I mean, you're allowed to run. God, welcome to America. No more. 40 minutes later, we get a call that somebody threw a rock through the window, a window on the backside of Motel 6 while people were in there sleeping. We look at the video. Sure as shit, isn't it this the guy? This guy throws a rock through that window, takes off running. So when I see him running, he had just thrown a rock through the window. Turns out the guy was crazy. We ended up finding him later on. He was nuts. We thought for sure it was going to be like an ex-boyfriend that was throwing a rock through the window. It wasn't. He was just nuts. But threw a rock through the window. And because I am so like, no, hey, welcome to America, man. You can do what you want, buddy. I didn't stop that guy. And I could have had him right there. Now, maybe I would have let him go eventually anyway, since we didn't know about the rock at the time. We would have checked. We would have called Motel 6. They didn't even know. They would have been like, no, everything's fine here. And we probably would have just ID'd him and let him go. But we would have at least had an ID.
Nothing wrong with this guy, even though he's nutty.
It's not illegal to be nuts, man, or we'd be full, right? We'd have to build more prisons.
That's true.
That's for sure.
Yeah, not
That's
illegal
for
to be
sure.
nuts, man. Not illegal.
Wouldn't be hosting the Everyday Constitution page.
What's
Or
that?
Zoom. I wouldn't be hosting the Everyday Constitution Zoom.
We probably
Right.
only have about 12 people in here.
Yeah, I did a behavioral health thing a couple of weeks ago, and the graph they have for the population, and those that were institutionalized back in the 70s, they just switched because they
Drinking, but I don't like this.
so much. Those guys just started in prison.
What is, I got a whole lot of noise coming over Brad there and I'm on Prezi, so I can't see. What, Brad, try again.
So I did a training a couple weeks ago on like especially like antisocial personality disorder and some other stuff.
Crazy people.
Yeah, basically what they said was since Kennedy deinstitutionalized behavioral health and hospital, inpatient hospitalizations or forced hospitalizations, all they've done is they've lowered the amount of people that are hospitalized. But if you look at the prison population, it matches it. They just switched. That's it.
Oh, no kidding. So instead of being in the hospital, they're in prison now.
Yeah, it's very similar numbers.
Wow.
Interesting.
I was gonna say stage 10 crazy isn't illegal, but maybe it is.
You're gonna say what?
Stage 10 crazy isn't illegal, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Stage 9 might not be.
No longer guilty by reason of insanity, or not
Right.
guilty by reason of insanity.
All right, so Terry stopped. Does anybody have any questions on that? And those are the exceptions. Those are the 6 major exceptions to the Fourth Amendment. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily disagree with any of them.
Is a pocket knife considered a weapon?
That's, I don't know now. I would have to look into that because they just legalized knives, switchblades, things like that.
Did they legalize them or did they decriminalize them?
No, I think they're legalized now. You're allowed to have them now.
Really?
That's a good question. That's a good
Even-
question.
Even concealed.
Yeah.
I thought they just,
Knives used to be a misdemeanor CCW violation.
I
I've
thought
never
they just
arrested-
decriminalized them.
I'm almost sure. I don't think it's
Really?
decriminalized because decriminalized means you can still be arrested and there's only a monetary fine.
Because there was a blade length that went corresponding to it, wasn't there?
That's what everybody says. I don't know. I don't think so. But you know what? Here's the problem with it is I don't think I've ever charged anybody with a pocket knife. The people that I run into, you just don't see if people are carrying weapons or carrying guns. You know what I mean? This isn't the 50s where a bunch of greasers are carrying switchblades around.
So, it's like,
West
so you
Side
haven't
Story.
run across, you haven't run
right,
across
right.
the guy with the Rambo knife yet?
Well, yeah, but if it's in the open, there's nothing I can do about it. You're allowed to have knives. No, and there is no blade.
What's his
It's for folding knives, but you know
You
what? I
said-
don't even.
about
I don't-
Crocodile Dundee's knife?
Did you say there's no blade length restrictions on fixed blade, but there is on folding?
That was my understanding at some point, but you'll have to show me in the law where it says that because I don't believe it does. But I've never been too concerned about it. The guys that I'm running into are grandpas carrying a pocket knife, right? Listen, in my opinion, every man should be carrying a pocket knife, right? I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, right.
I agree.
You need it.
Yep.
You
That's like
always
part
need it.
of the Boy Scout code.
Yep.
Right.
My grandparents always had them.
I guess it's
Yep.
one of those
Why-
things that I
My
got bigger
dad-
things to worry about.
Yep.
Why shouldn't a
Grandpa had
woman
one to
carry
clean
one?
his fingernails.
Right. I remember that.
Why shouldn't a woman carry one?
Well, okay, that's whatever. I'm a sex educator. I don't know.
I can carry a gun.
Well, I think every woman should carry a gun.
Boom.
This is my rifle. This is my gun.
Oh God, stop. All right. So
What
real
about-
quick,
what about the
Dan, what do you want to talk about here real quick on the, because it is a Fourth Amendment issue. When we're talking about the OVI checkpoints, right? Well, I'll give you my spiel real quick. Why it's not a violation of the Fourth Amendment. It is not a violation of the Fourth Amendment because we have to announce them ahead of time. Not only do we announce them ahead of time, but there are signs leading up to them saying they're there. And there is always a way to get away from it, right? You can always make a turn off. There's always at least one street where you can turn. Now where they get you is where you can't make a decision fast enough and you pass that street up and then you decide to blow a U-turn in the middle of this intersection or whatever to get away. And that's where they're going to get you. But there's signs and they're announced ahead of time. So the courts have ruled it is not a violation of the Fourth Amendment. While there is a detention, so technically there is a seizure. That seizure is so short and non-invasive that it does not rise to the level of Fourth Amendment violation. Do you have to talk to the police in an OVI checkpoint? mean, what do you think?
No.
Would you ever have to talk to anyone?
You don't have to talk to the police. You can leave your
No,
window.
You don't
on.
have to.
You can decide you're not going to talk to them. You don't have to talk to them. Now, if they flag you over, you got to go. I mean, I would, okay. And you take it up in court. You don't take it up on the side of the road. But you don't have to talk to them. And we get those people that come through there sometimes and they have their windows up and they just hold up a card that says, I am, invoking
talk to
whatever
cops.
my Fifth Amendment rights, self-incriminate. I don't, I'm not talking to the police. I'm not, here's my ID. They'll hold their ID up. But even then, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if you're not doing anything wrong. I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know what the legality, I mean, I don't think the police can even demand your ID at that point. You're not doing anything wrong, right? You're not suspected of a crime. So you don't
Well,
have to
you
talk
are
to them.
you are operating motor vehicle on
Okay.
public streets.
Okay.
So I
what
I thought the law was if you are driving, the cops have the right to ask for your ID to verify that you are licensed.
So I can stop anybody I want on the road now and just be like, hey, I want to see your ID.
Safety check.
Huh?
Well, you know, when I was,
No, you're right.
I was
Just the
born
fact that
in the
you're
early
driving, man, does not, they still need probable cause.
Safety check.
Now, that's different. That is codified under the Ohio Revised Code, those safety checks.
You were driving by me and I thought your tires looked a little slick.
That ain't me, though. Local
No, I
police
know.
are not covered in that. Well, no, I mean, local police are not covered under that law. The only ones that can do that is the Ohio State Highway Patrol.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Okay.
Ohio State Highway Patrol can do it. We are not, it's just like, it's like the commercial carrier enforcement guys, right? They can stop a truck for they don't even need a reason. They can stop any commercial vehicle and put them through an entire level one safety check, level one inspection. where they're
See them
going
do
through-
that down by my work.
And they can,
I
they
see them
don't
on
need a
90 all the
reason.
time.
They can just sit there. They can sit there and it's the white trucks with the red lights. They can sit there and they just say, hey, this guy right here. And now if while they're doing their safety inspection, they find something illegal in there, right? They find the guy's drinking or they find some dope in the back, then they call the troopers and it's all legal. But I cannot do it. I can't stop just a commercial motor vehicle and for a safety check.
Gotcha. Okay.
Same thing with safety checks for the cars. I mean, it's got to be the highway patrol and they have all these requirements they have to do, with signage and things like that. But
I remember when I was a little kid, I mean, really, really little, in the 60s, my parents being stopped for the safety checks by the patrol. Yep.
yeah, they still do it. They still do it here.
I haven't seen it in years, but
No.
it happened all the time when I was
It
growing
was a few
up.
years ago. I did see highway patrol stop. They had one up on alternate 83 right at Route 10. And they were flagging people over and they were checking their cars and they give you a little sticker or something. And I don't know. Hey, congratulations. Tires aren't bald. So, but yeah. Dan, you got anything else you want to add to that about these? Is he still here? Great. So I went through all that. Dan's not even here anymore.
That's gone.
That's
I have a question, Jim.
Yeah.
He's here.
Have you ever encountered a deaf driver and how do you handle that?
Yeah, sure I have. But I mean, deaf drivers are very good at letting you know they're deaf quick, right? A lot of them have this card that they hand you to let you know they're deaf. But I mean, in fairness, deaf drivers, we've all heard a deaf person speak, right? I mean, when they're deaf. So usually we just write. I bring my notepad out. I write down what I need. They get it for me. They write down whatever they want to say because I don't know ASL. So, but yeah, I mean, that's all that is. Every now and then you'll get a deaf driver that's just not paying attention and, you're behind them with your lights on. They're not stopping. You hit your siren. They're not stopping, not stopping. All of a sudden then they notice you and they pull over. Which is
They have
all
the
more
music up
reason
too loud.
why you should not just go running up to cars and assume that somebody was trying to, oh yeah, listening to a good song, right? I didn't realize I said that, but no, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're just going along and which is all the more reason why, I mean, we try to tell these new guys that, look, I mean, just because people are taking a while to slow down doesn't mean you need to run up there, bust their window out of the car and drag them out of the car, right?
Yeah.
I had the one time, and I still feel bad about this guy, but he actually came up to the station and he apologized to me. I was on Chestnut Ridge and I had a drunk driver, man. The guy was all over the road. He hit mailboxes on each side of the road while I was behind him. Hit
Wow.
one mailbox, came across, light, siren, the whole deal. He's not stopping, going up on people's lawns. So we get up to the railroad tracks at Chestnut Ridge at the crossing there. There's a train. He stops. I get out. I pull him out. I throw him on the ground, bounce his chin off the pavement, cuts his chin open. I get him handcuffed. Turns out total diabetic coma, right? He's having diabetic issues. Once the squad gets there, and we started realizing it pretty quick. Once the squad gets there, they get him leveled back out. Somebody comes, picks him up. He goes home. We dust him off. He comes back up a couple days later and, you know, I mean, chin was all smacked up, but he apologized. He apologized for everything. He says, man, because I was on my way home. I felt it coming. I know I should have stopped, but I thought I could make it home in time and, you know, be able to get the orange juice or whatever it was he needed. But he ends up just kind of going into that weird diabetic coma deal when he was a few doors down from his house. He drove right by his house. He lived on Bradley, just kept driving by and it just kept getting worse and worse.
Wow.
So,
Type 1 diabetics
Yeah.
or 2 on insulin will get a low blood sugar and it's like they're drunk. I tell my daughter all the time,
Yep.
You might have saved him.
have your,
Yeah, you might have saved his life.
Might have saved his life.
or somebody else.
Somebody else.
Yeah,
Right.
He was all over the
Yeah.
road.
Definitely.
And we deal with them quite a bit. I mean, not, not daily, not weekly, maybe not monthly, but a lot more than you would think, where we'll get somebody stopped on a pursuit and we have all these cars involved. And as soon as you get up there, you're like, something's wrong here, you know?
Yep.
You got to calm everybody down. You're like, hold on. Let's not, jerk this person out through their window. So yeah, it
I was
does. It
behind a
happens.
diabetic having an attack once on Bainbridge, and he was riding the curbs and he was hitting mailboxes, and finally he pulled over into the corner store and a bunch of the cops came. And as soon as he got out of the car, you could just tell he wasn't drunk. It was more of a diabetic issue.
Wow.
But like I
Yeah.
was behind him with my 4-ways on the phone with the police, and cars behind me are honking at me passing. And I'm like, you guys are a bunch of assholes.
No, it's scary, man, because we've had them up on 480 on Route 10. So they're doing 70 miles an hour and they're not, they're going out and they start just swerving lane to lane. And I mean, it's crazy. So, all right. So I guess that's it. We're at 9:10. Go ahead and cut this one off. Does anybody have any questions? Does everybody have a pretty good feeling on the Fourth Amendment now?
Great stuff, Jim. Great information.
Just remember, you don't talk to the cops. Don't help them do their job, right? Probable cause. You don't have to consent to a search of your vehicle. You don't have to consent to a search of your house. You don't have to let the police in your house, right? If the police show up with a warrant, whether you think the warrant's good or not, if the police decide to search your car, whether you think it's a righteous search or not, you let them do it, right? The time to take this up is in court, not on the side of the road. We see how that ends a lot of the time on the side of the road when you want to fight with the police. Contempt of cop, especially with the young cops, contempt of cop is a real thing. And if you think you're going to call a cop out on the side of the road and tell him what he is and is not going to do, it's not going to end well. Just get to court. And the court is heavily weighed for you anymore. We were talking about that before, that, when I got hired, it used to be weighed very heavily for the police, which is wrong. And I enjoyed it. I mean, we'd go for speeding ticket and just to know that we were going to win, but that's wrong. It should be heavily weighed for the citizen. It's up to the state and up to us to prove our case. And there's no reason and there's no requirement that you help the police do that.
Now, I have a question about your residents. So if a cop or some law enforcement agent comes to your house and you say you don't want to speak to them, they don't have a warrant, can you demand them off your property as a trespass?
Sure you can. Yeah.
Call
I mean,
the-
if
call the sheriff.
if they're just there to talk to you and they don't have any lawful purpose to be there, once you establish that you don't want to talk to them, there's no lawful purpose for them to be there. Now, if they have a warrant, it's a different story, right?
Sure.
If they have probable cause to believe that something is going on, that there's a crime, then they don't have to leave, right? If they're going to secure a warrant for your residence, they can stay on the property at that point. But if barring all of that, barring that they're getting a warrant, barring that somebody there is under arrest, that they just want to talk to you about, because they are suspicious that you've been involved in something, and they want your side of it. Nope.
Essentially that pastor in Canada story.
Correct.
They show up and get your Nazi Gestapo stuff
Yep.
off my yard, and then they finally come back with a warrant. he got arrested, even if the warrant is crap. He
And you
could-
take it up in court. you
Exactly.
know? And, and I would,
It's
you don't,
cannabis, it's different.
there's no reason to, yell at the cops and tell these effing pigs to get off your property. And, you just assert your rights. Look, I know my rights. I know my Fourth Amendment rights. I know my Fifth Amendment rights. I don't want to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you. If you come back with a warrant, I will certainly comply. But until that point, we're done here. I have nothing further to say to you. Please leave my property. I would close the door and I would walk away. That's it. And I've had that happen. And I've been with new guys. And the guy will close the door on us and he's like, get the hell off my property, closes the door. And new guy look at me, he's like, what are we going to do? I said, well, I guess we're going to get the hell off his property. We turn around, we walk right back to our cars. So it's just like when, you get these new guys that are dealing, young cops that are dealing with people on the road. And, it might be a little sketchy why they're dealing with them, right? It's just somebody walking down the road, walking down the side of the road. They're walking the right way. They're on the sidewalk, whatever. And they go out with them and they're talking to them. And the guy basically tells you to go F yourself. So then they call for backup and you get there and you're like, well, what do you got? It's like, well, this guy was walking down the road. I think he's sketchy. He told me to go F myself. I said, well, what are you going to do? He says, I don't know. What do you think? I said, well, I think you should go F yourself. I mean, if you don't have anything else on this guy, you let the guy go. I mean,
I agree with him.
Yeah. I think at this point, I think we've done our due diligence. We've stopped him and you don't have anything else. And he's told you to go fuck yourself. I think you go fuck yourself. So get back in the car and let's just tell the guy,
Enjoy, right?
Take care, sir. Have a good day. Sorry to bother you.
I'm gonna go enjoy myself now.
Yeah.
I think he was sincere. I'm going to take him up on that.
But it's true. I mean, right? You have the right to tell the police you don't want to deal with them. And at that point, I mean, the government's supposed to just get out of your business. So
Nate's gonna have to edit that.
Renee's like, we're still recording, people.
I know.
yeah,
it's
but you know
like,
what? Every now
don't
and then you need a
use
good
the
F-bomb for the
F-word.
story. So,
That's right.
all right. So Jeff, good on that one? All right.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anything?
See you in the after.
All right. Hey, good talk. I enjoyed the Fourth and we will get into the Fifth Amendment next week. Let's see here real quick. So read up on the Fifth. Yeah, Fifth is kind of long. We're probably only going to get through the Fifth. Because we've got
That's a
due
long one,
process. We've got, the Fifth Amendment's going to take a while.
Yep.
You gotta fit in the Dave Chappelle skit.
It's good.
All right. So Fifth Amendment next week, read up on it and I'll see you guys then.
Cool.
All right.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
session.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.